Imagine a treasure so vast it took 2 months just to load it onto a ship. Gold statues encrusted with jewels, chests overflowing with coins, silver bars stacked like firewood, and life-size solid gold figures from lost empires. This was the legendary treasure of Lima, the accumulated wealth of centuries evacuated in a desperate gamble. But the man entrusted to guard it saw an opportunity. He turned pirate, murdered the guards, and sailed away with a fortune that would cripple an empire. He buried it on a remote, jungle-choked island and unleashed a curse of greed that has claimed hundreds of lives. Our story begins in 1820, amidst the chaos of the South American Wars of Independence. Lima, the capital of Peru and the jewel of the Spanish viceroyalty, was under imminent threat from the revolutionary forces led by José de San Martín. The Spanish viceroy, Joaquín de la Pezuela, faced a terrible choice: let the immense wealth of Lima fall into rebel hands or risk moving it. He chose the latter. The treasure was staggering. It included the accumulated riches of the Lima Cathedral, jewel-encrusted chalices, solid gold statues, silver candelabras, along with vast amounts of gold and silver coins, bars, and artifacts collected over 200 years of Spanish rule. Estimates vary wildly, but modern valuations place its worth anywhere from hundreds of millions to potentially billions of dollars. It was, quite simply, one of the greatest treasures ever assembled. To transport this fortune to the safety of Mexico, the viceroy hired a British merchant brig, the Mary Dear, commanded by Captain William Thompson. Thompson was known as an honest trader. The Spanish loaded the treasure onto his ship under heavy guard, along with priests and noblemen who would accompany it. It took 2 months to complete the loading. Thompson swore an oath to protect the cargo with his life. It was an oath he would break in the most brutal way possible. Somewhere on the voyage north, the lure of unimaginable wealth proved too strong. Thompson and his crew turned pirates. In a bloody mutiny, they slit the throats of the Spanish guards and the priests, throwing their bodies overboard. The noblemen were likely spared only long enough to help navigate or perhaps tortured for information about the treasure itself. Once they were no longer needed, they too met a watery grave. The Mary Dear, now stained with blood, sailed on not towards Mexico, but towards an uncertain horizon, carrying a king's ransom and a terrible secret. Thompson knew he couldn't simply sail into a port with such a notorious cargo. He needed a hiding place. He steered the Mary Dear towards a remote, uninhabited island hundreds of miles off the coast of Costa Rica, Isla del Coco, or Cocos Island. Cocos Island was the perfect pirate hideaway, lush, mountainous, riddled with caves, shrouded in mist, and, crucially, possessing fresh water. Thompson and his remaining crew anchored in a bay, likely Chatham Bay, and began the arduous task of hauling the immense treasure ashore. Legend says they buried it in a hidden cave, or perhaps multiple locations across the island, marking the spot with cryptic clues or maps that have fueled speculation ever since. After burying the treasure, their plan began to unravel. They were eventually captured by a Spanish warship. Most of the crew were promptly tried for piracy and executed by hanging. Only Captain Thompson and his first mate, James Alexander Forbes, were spared, likely because they promised to lead the Spanish back to the hidden treasure. But Thompson and Forbes had one last trick up their sleeves. As they guided the Spanish warship back towards Cocos Island, they managed to escape, vanishing into the dense jungle the moment they made land. The Spanish searched frantically for both the men and the treasure, but found neither. The island guarded its secrets well. Thompson and Forbes were never seen again by the Spanish authorities. The treasure of Lima was officially lost.
The fate of Thompson and Forbes remains a mystery. Some say they died on the island,
Others claim Forbes eventually made it off, settling in California, but never dared return for the treasure himself, instead passing the secret map to a friend on his deathbed. What is certain is that their act of betrayal unleashed a different kind of curse onto Cocos Island, the curse of obsession. For the next 2 centuries, the legend of the Treasure of Lima grew, fueled by dubious maps, deathbed confessions, and the sheer intoxicating allure of buried pirate gold. Cocos Island became a magnet for adventurers, dreamers, and desperate men from all corners of the globe. Over 500 documented expeditions have descended upon the island, armed with shovels, dynamite, and increasingly sophisticated technology. They found nothing. Or rather, they found only misery. Cocos Island is not a tropical paradise. It is a harsh, unforgiving place. The jungle is nearly impenetrable. Rain falls almost constantly, turning the steep slopes into treacherous mudslides. Venomous snakes, poisonous insects, and shark-infested waters are constant threats. And the isolation, the crushing weight of failure, drove many men mad. The history of the treasure hunt is a history of death. Expeditions vanished without a trace. Men were killed in fights over imaginary claims. Others succumbed to disease or accidents. Some were allegedly driven to suicide by the island's oppressive atmosphere and the ghost of the treasure that always seemed just out of reach. It is estimated that hundreds of people have died searching for the Treasure of Lima. The island itself seemed to become the guardian, defending its stolen riches with a relentless natural fury. One of the most famous attempts was led by the German adventurer August Gissler, who lived on the island for nearly 20 years from 1889 to 1908, convinced he was close. He dug extensive tunnels, followed countless clues, and sacrificed his health and fortune to the quest. He found only a handful of old Spanish coins. Even modern technology has failed. Ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, satellite imagery, all have been employed, yet the main hoard remains elusive. Some believe the treasure was never buried on Cocos Island at all, that Thompson lied, removed it elsewhere. Others believe it's still there, protected by ingenious natural camouflage, or perhaps something more. Today, Cocos Island is a protected national park of Costa Rica, and treasure hunting is strictly forbidden. Yet, the legend endures. The ghosts of Thompson, his murdered victims, and the hundreds of failed treasure hunters are said to still haunt the misty jungles, forever bound to the island by their greed. The Treasure of Lima is a story with no satisfying conclusion. It is a testament to the destructive power of avarice, a reminder that some secrets are buried too deep, and some islands are best left undisturbed. The gold remains hidden, perhaps forever, guarded not by a supernatural curse, but by the deadly combination of treacherous nature and the insatiable, self-destructive nature of human desire.